Lately you've been questioning love. Girl, I know this might seem strange, but never thought that we would ever be. I was told the true definition of a man was to never cry. How about you and me start over? If we let him go, who knows? The answer is yes. Yeah, that's right, you might. So yeah, I do. You tryna hold out, just apologize. It's all about the simple thing. You can ask me anything. You think I'm so full of it, girl. It'll be fly if you want my B-U-E-D-Y. Many days I've longed for you, wanting you. I just wanna know your name and maybe sometime it's gonna have crazy. If you leave, teach me, show me how to love. Yeah, that's right, you my ex. I ain't trying to get back, no, I'm thinking about who next.
Musiq Soulchild isn't who you think he is. For years, fans saw him as the smooth, soulful R&B singer with timeless hits. But behind the sunglasses and love songs, there was a struggle that almost destroyed everything. He never wanted fame. He never wanted a record deal. He just wanted to sing. But when he finally accepted the spotlight, the industry wasn't what he expected. It changed him in ways no one saw coming. And when his career started to slow down, he made a move that shocked everyone. He threw away the image that made him famous, changed his entire persona, and tried to reinvent himself as someone completely different. The result? A total disaster. Fans rejected him. His reputation took a hit. And after years of being one of R&B's biggest stars, Musiq Soulchild became unrecognizable. So what really happened? And did his attempt at reinvention ruin his career forever? Let's get into it. Musiq Soulchild wasn't like other R&B singers. He didn't chase fame. He didn't want to be a superstar. He just wanted to sing. Born Talib Johnson in Philadelphia, he grew up immersed in music, inspired by legends like Donny Hathaway and James Brown. He was just a kid when people started calling him the Music Boy, a nickname that eventually became his stage name. But here's what most people don't know. Musiq never planned to have a career in the industry. He was just a talented guy who loved performing at open mic nights around Philly. He wanted to record music, but not in the way the industry expected. His talent was undeniable, though. It got him noticed. And before he knew it, he had a record deal with Def Soul in 1999. But while the world saw a confident artist on the rise, Musiq was battling demons behind the scenes. Even at the height of his success, he was struggling with severe alcoholism, something that nearly ended his career before it even took off. At one point, his drinking got so bad he suffered a nervous breakdown and had to be hospitalized. It was in that hospital bed that Musiq made a life-changing promise. If he got another chance, he'd get his act together and take his career seriously. And he did. He dropped his debut album I Just Wanna Sing in 2000, and it was an instant success. His signature blend of hip-hop and soul set him apart, and within just a few years he had platinum albums, hit singles, and a loyal fan base. But success didn't last forever. After switching record labels in the late 2000s, things started to change. His album sales dropped, his sound started shifting, and that's when Musiq decided to make a move that no one saw coming. And let's just say, it didn't go well. Musiq Soulchild had already defied the odds. He overcame personal struggles, built a loyal fan base, and made a name for himself as one of the most respected voices in R&B. But by the late 2000s, something changed. R&B wasn't what it used to be. The genre that once dominated the airwaves was now fading into the background, and artists like Musiq were feeling the shift. His 2008 album, On My Radio, was the first in his career that didn't go platinum or gold. The fans who once couldn't get enough of his soulful sound weren't showing up like they used to. And behind closed doors, Musiq knew it. The bookings weren't coming in. The radio spins weren't as strong. And for the first time in his career, he was struggling to stay relevant. So he did something drastic. Instead of trying to revive his signature sound, he did a complete 180. He changed his name, his voice, his entire persona, and became someone else entirely. That's when he introduced the hustle, a completely new alter ego. Gone was the soulful crooner that fans fell in love with. In his place was a masked, auto-tuned rapper, dressed in black leather, with a mysterious, futuristic look. And let's just say, it didn't go over well. Fans were confused, critics were brutal, and music's reputation took a hit almost overnight. But here's the real question. Why would he do this? What made Musiq Soulchild, one of the most beloved R&B artists of his era, risk everything for a reinvention that no one asked for? The answer is even crazier than you think. Musiq Soulchild wasn't just changing his sound. He was changing his entire identity. With The Hustle, he went from soulful R&B vocalist to auto-tune trap artist. And it wasn't just a one-off experiment. He doubled down. He dropped an entire mixtape, The Hustle, in 2014, along with an EP a year later. His whole image shifted. He ditched his signature look, started wearing a black leather crown, and covered half of his face with a scarf. The message was clear. Musiq Soulchild was gone. But the fans weren't having it. People were outraged. They didn't understand why one of R&B's most beloved voices was suddenly trying to sound like a dollar store Future. And then came the backlash. Interviews got tense. Charlemagne the God dragged him on The Breakfast Club, telling him straight up that nobody wanted this change. The fans weren't interested. The critics weren't impressed. And to make things worse, Musiq didn't have a good answer for why he did it. At first, he tried to spin it like it was a creative decision. He said it was a way to express another side of himself. But as the criticism piled up, he finally admitted the truth. He wasn't making money as Musiq Soulchild anymore. In an interview with This Is 50, he broke it down. Musiq Soulchild wasn't getting booked like he used to. The industry had changed. R&B was no longer the dominant genre, and artists like Musiq were struggling to keep up. So instead of fighting to stay relevant in a shrinking space, he chased the money. He believed The Hustle would help him tap into a younger, hip-hop-driven audience. He thought it would open doors, get him more bookings, and give him a fresh start. But it backfired. Instead of gaining a new audience, he alienated the one he already had. The people who loved Musiq Soulchild, the people who bought his albums, went to his concerts, and made him a household name, felt betrayed. And if that wasn't bad enough, he did it again. That's right, after The Hustle flopped, Musiq tried another reinvention. This time he called himself Purple Wonderlove. And let's just say, it went about as well as you'd expect. You'd think after The Hustle flopped, Musiq Soulchild would have learned his lesson. But nope. Instead of going back to what made him successful, he doubled down on reinvention, this time as Purple Wonderlove. If The Hustle was a desperate attempt to cash in on hip-hop, Purple Wonderlove was just confusing. This new persona was more of a throwback, a blend of funk, soul, and psychedelic vibes, but it came with the same identity crisis. He released the Eternal Peace EP under this new name, and just like before, nobody cared. At this point, fans weren't just confused, they were frustrated. Musiq Soulchild had one of the most distinctive voices in R&B, yet he kept trying to be someone else. And the worst part? He never actually committed to these new personas. One minute, he was talking about how The Hustle was his future. The next, he was Purple Wonderlove. Then suddenly, he was back to just being Musiq Soulchild again. It was like he didn't even know who he wanted to be, and that destroyed his credibility. Artists reinvent themselves all the time, but the ones who succeed do it with a clear vision. When Prince changed his name to a symbol, there was a strategy behind it. When Beyoncé became Sasha Fierce, it was part of her creative evolution. But with Musiq, it just felt random. Instead of being seen as innovative, he looked lost. Instead of elevating his career, it pushed him even further into irrelevance. And once again, he found himself right back where he started, struggling to make an impact in a music industry that had already moved on. But if you think that was the end of his story, you're wrong. Because Musiq still had one more move left, and this time, he played it safe. After 2 failed reinventions, Musiq Soulchild finally did what fans had been begging him to do. He dropped the gimmicks. No more hustle. No more Purple Wonderlove. Just Musiq Soulchild, the R&B singer people actually wanted to hear. In 2016, he made his official comeback with the album Life on Earth. The lead single, I Do, brought back the sound his fans had missed, and it actually performed well, peaking at number 11 on the R&B charts. It wasn't the massive comeback he might have hoped for, but it was a step in the right direction. Then, in 2017, he dropped Feel the Real, a 24-track double album that even earned him a Grammy nomination for Best R&B Album. For the first time in years, it felt like Musiq was finally getting back on track. But the truth is, the damage had already been done. By the time he returned to his classic sound, the industry had already moved on. Streaming had taken over. The new wave of R&B was more trap-influenced, and the artists dominating the scene weren't cut from the same cloth as Musiq Soulchild. Names like Bryson Tiller, Summer Walker, and SZA were now defining the sound of modern R&B. And as talented as Musiq was, he was no longer a major player in the mainstream. Even his personal life had changed. He had a second child in 2018, but details about that situation remained messy and private, and when people asked him about it, he dodged the questions. By this point, it was clear, Musiq Soulchild would never fully reclaim the success he once had. But here's the thing. He never actually stopped making music. In 2018, he formed a hip-hop soul group called Lumi Trees, proving that he still had a passion for collaboration. Then in 2020, he released Do It for Dilla, a tribute mixtape honoring legendary producer J Dilla, covering classic R&B records with a fresh, soulful twist. And in 2021, he made surprise appearances at DJ Cassidy's Pass the Mic event and the BET Soul Train Awards, where he reminded the world why his voice is still legendary. So while he may not be dominating the charts anymore, Musiq Soulchild is still here, still performing, still creating, and still proving that true artistry never really fades away. But the question remains, did his alter egos permanently damage his career? Or was he just another victim of an industry that moved on without him? Just when people thought Musiq Soulchild had completely faded from the mainstream, he got a rare opportunity to remind everyone why he was once R&B royalty. In February 2022, he went head-to-head with Anthony Hamilton in a versus battle, bringing his biggest hits back to the stage in front of thousands of fans. For Musiq, this wasn't just another performance, it was a chance at redemption. For years, people had written him off, saying his career had taken too many hits. But now, standing across from Anthony Hamilton, another legend in his own right, Musiq had something to prove, and when he started performing classics like Love, Just Friends, Sunny, and Teach Me, something crazy happened. People remembered why they loved him. Social media lit up with fans saying Musiq still had one of the best voices in R&B, that he never got the respect he deserved, and that his catalog could go toe-to-toe with anyone from his era. But the versus battle wasn't without controversy. Some fans noticed that Musiq struggled with certain notes, sounding a little off at times. Others thought his stage presence wasn't as sharp as Anthony Hamilton's, who came in prepared and polished. And then there was the awkward moment with the DJ. At one point, Musiq got visibly frustrated with his DJ and told him to get it together mid-performance, which some felt threw off the vibe of the event. Still, despite the hiccups, Musiq's impact was undeniable. His songs aged beautifully, his influence was clear, and for a brief moment, it felt like he was finally getting the flowers he deserved. But did the versus battle actually revive his career? Not exactly. While it sparked a fresh wave of appreciation, it didn't translate into a major resurgence. There was no follow-up album, no big tour announcement, just a moment of nostalgia before the industry moved on once again. So the question remains, was Musiq Soulchild a victim of his own choices, or just another artist who got left behind as the music industry evolved? One thing's for sure, his legacy is still intact, and no matter how many times he tried to reinvent himself, his real fans never forgot the magic of Musiq Soulchild. So after all the reinventions, the highs and lows, the comebacks and controversies, where is Musiq Soulchild now? The truth is, Musiq never really left music, but he also never fully reclaimed his spot at the top. After the versus battle in 2022, there was a renewed interest in his catalog, and fans were once again debating where he stands among R&B's greats. But instead of using that momentum to drop a new album, Musiq stayed relatively low-key. That is, until 2023, when he announced something unexpected. Musiq Soulchild teamed up with producer Hit Boy, the same hitmaker behind projects for Nas, Jay-Z, and Beyoncé, to drop a brand new album titled Victims and Villains. The album was different. It had a modern R&B feel, mixing classic music vibes with current production trends. It showed that music wasn't just stuck in the past, he was still evolving. And surprisingly, the album was well received. Tracks like I Remember You My Ex reminded fans that his pen game was still sharp and that his voice, flaws and all, was still one of the most unique in R&B. But here's the thing. Even with the new music, Musiq Soulchild isn't mainstream anymore. He's not selling out arenas, he's not dominating the charts, and he's definitely not the household name he was in the early 2000s. But does he even want that anymore? Musiq has made it clear. He's in a different phase of his career now. He's focused on creating on his own terms, making music for the fans who still ride with him, and staying out of the industry drama that once nearly ruined him. He's also been exploring mentorship and songwriting, collaborating behind the scenes with newer artists, and passing on his knowledge to the next generation. So no, Musiq Soulchild might never return to his superstar status. But at this point, it doesn't seem like he cares about that. He's making music because he loves it. And in an industry where artists are constantly chasing the next big thing, maybe that's the real win. Musiq Soulchild's career is one of the most unique stories in R&B history. He went from being one of the biggest voices in early 2000s soul music to struggling with industry shifts, failed reinventions, and a battle to stay relevant. At his peak, he was an undeniable force, dropping platinum albums, defining a generation of love songs, and crafting a signature sound that still holds up today. But when the industry started changing, so did he. And instead of doubling down on what made him great, he tried to become someone else. Twice. The Hustle flopped. Purple Wonder Love flopped. And by the time he returned to being Musiq Soulchild, the industry had already moved on. But here's what's crazy. He's still here. Despite everything, he continues to create, perform, and evolve. His 2023 album with Hit Boy, his Versus battle, and his recent collaborations prove that he's not done yet. So the real question isn't whether Musiq Soulchild still has it. The real question is, was his downfall inevitable? Was he just another victim of an industry that chews up and spits out artists once their era ends? Or did he sabotage his own career with reinventions that nobody asked for? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we've got more deep dives into your favorite R&B legends coming daily.